Hello. All right. I realize that I'm typing while live on Twitter, but let's see. Getting going here. 5, 4. All right. So you saw the chat that was going on in the general with our new friend Arwen. Here we go.
I did have a look, yeah. Okay. More analytics, more forecasting tools. Google Trends API. Performance APIs. Analytic graphs over selected periods of time. Comparison stuff.
Yes. So, like for the Wikipedia market, I think it would be cool to have on the listing page the trends data for that particular.
Maybe you should, for those that don't know, I know you've mentioned the Wikipedia market a few times elsewhere, but for those that don't know what it is, right?
Yeah, so for those that don't know what it is, the Wikipedia market is just like the Twitter and Substack markets, only every listing is a Wikipedia page. So we're basically giving people the ability to buy ideas directly, kind of using the codification system that Wikipedia has already created. So
that was the problem. That was the problem
cool.
You had. You wanted to be able to trade literal ideas, but there's the problem of, well, how do we quantify and market like what certain ideas are? Basically using Wikipedia as this predefined, publicly, democratically altered base to say, look, here's what this idea is. It's an easy tool to use, right?
Yep.
So you can literally trade being anything. I don't know, literally anything. So it's the ironic thing, right? Is that everything becomes an idea as well. Thinking about it now, like if you had if your idea is that something's going to mimetically enter into culture, it doesn't even need to be an idea immediately. But it becomes an idea as soon as you back it, right? So for instance, if you think that, I don't know, double glazed windows are going to be a huge part of 2022, I'm sure there's a Wikipedia page for them, and you could back that. And that's an object that becomes an idea because you're entering it into the discussion, right? You're saying this is going to be bigger than you think. That's a ridiculous example, but it would work. Like anything that's on Wikipedia as defined can become your signaling that is going to be an important part of culture. So it's like, I don't know. Market basically literally becomes signals, which is pretty cool.
100%. And even if you don't like the way Wikipedia has treated something, if you think Wikipedia has been propagandistic about how it defines or explains a certain term, you're still elevating that term's prominence in the public consciousness and getting people to Google it. And I think we can still, I think that's another reason that it would be cool to have Google data in the listing pages, because if let's say you click, I don't know, motivated reasoning, the Wikipedia listing for motivated reasoning, and then you open up the listing page and you have like a little, iframe or something that shows the top Google results for motivated reasoning, or the top Reddit results, or the top, etc. To give people kind of a wide overview of information about that topic. So it's not just limited to Wikipedia. We're using Wikipedia as like the categorization mechanism for all these different concepts. Wikipedia is, I think, a very good example of one of Ideamarket's main theses, which is that the best information in the world is public. It's just not prioritized. It's just not cool. There's a ton of like weird, obscure stuff that's on Wikipedia that is very credible and very important, but is not in the accepted sphere of discourse. So just by elevating it through Ideamarket, we can make sure that it becomes a part of the official sphere of discourse, relevant sphere of discourse.
Mm-hmm.
All the weird, MK Ultra, all the CIA operations from decades ago that make everyone go, huh, that really is, kind of a big deal. We should talk about this more. All that stuff has a Wikipedia page. It's not secret. It's just not discussed. And using the Wikipedia market, we can take more control over what we're allowed to talk about in public. And I'm really excited about that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I mean, I've just got the Ngram thing up for motivated reasoning because I just had the thought
go for it.
Well, I don't need to show it, but I just had the thought that it would be interesting over time to see if the technical analysis of stock or crypto charts is synonymous in the way that you can analyze it with idea charts, right? So is like the interest in, is the waveform of a stock, technical analysts will know what to do. They can read these things, right? It takes longer than you think to be able to do it, but they can. Is that methodology going to be able to be carried across? If it can, that's super interesting because it means there's almost like a perennial form of economics between society and money, right? There is like a link somewhere literally between memetics and value, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Either way, it's cool because if it doesn't equate, that's something else. Like I would put money on that it does equate. That as certain stocks go up, but okay. Here's something super interesting that will take ages and ages to develop. But if you could get like an aggregation of all stocks, all cryptos, and you define them into like, I don't know, foods, medicine, leisure, I don't know, whatever categories you want, and then you get the same aggregate of ideas, you overlay them, and you could then begin to literally see, is it the idea that comes first? You could literally work out the chicken egg problem of marketing, of cultural memetics. You could see what comes first, and you could also begin to see what obscure ideas are potentially correlated with, like, Coca-Cola stock's gone up, and then you might see like, the idea of, I don't know, some idea you never expected, right? You're like, wait, that literally correlates with the rise. That would be super cool to see.
Yeah, 100%. Save the polar bears. Oh, wait, polar bears are in the Coca-Cola commercials. Oh, wait, Coca-Cola has gone up.
Stuff like that, man.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to see if technical analysis applies to like Ngram charts, applies to Google Trends and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's why I'm so fascinated with what kinds of data there is out there. Like, is Google Ngram the best at this? In a certain way, probably. But what else can it be correlated with? Because it's centralized, and who knows what else.
Yeah.
I'm just interested in finding ways to measure this stuff.
One thing I'd love to know from the Ngram, though, like looking at it now for motivated reasoning between the years 2000 and 2019. So it shows that at its peak, which is basically now, it's 0.00009% of, I guess that equates to all conversation that's
I think so, yeah.
Google. I want to know. I want to know what holds the top spot. Anything that might even imagine if something gets near 1%. Because if something gets near 1%, that's basically saying that this idea is mentioned. I guess you could say that this idea is mentioned 1 in every 100 times an idea is mentioned. And that's huge.
That'd be massive, yeah.
That would mean the future as well. The future as well is like, if a company's trying to get big, they're like, dude, you need to get your Ngram reading up. People are only mentioning you every 1 in 20,000 ideas. We need to pump that Ngram up. And it literally like can economically equate how much you're being spoken about in culture.
Yeah. That's definitely super cool. I guess, if I were going to red team this, I would say, well, you can just pump that up with bots. You can have like fake Twitter accounts and fake blogs and stuff like that. Maybe I don't know. I mean, the part of the challenge is I wonder how the Ngram data is calculated, what gets prioritized. Does it have anything to do with Google's regular algorithms so that they're in some way compensating for, backlinks and things like that? I really don't know. But I actually care about that less than it sounds like. For the moment, it's just super cool that you might be able to do that. And I'll bet there's some Google search you can perform that will tell you what are the top Ngram words. Like someone has to have answered this if Google doesn't themselves provide it. Yeah, check that out.
Oh, this is someone who's like 10 fascinating charts.
Also, I might eat lunch while we're on this. It's all right. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, get it done. There is like an info page that we could probably look into in terms of like how it's working and stuff.
Sweet. Is there a way?
Oh wow, you can do some pretty complicated stuff with this. Oh, that's cool. From 1800, sex was like 0.002 and marriage was 0.008, and eventually they met in 2000.
2000?
So it took 200 years.
Wow, that's recent.
Yeah, there's a good one for drinking certain things. Man, we got a lot of dead air. We need to talk about something. We're live.
Sorry, we're live. We're live. It's forgiven.
All right. So, is there anything unforeseen? Well, I can't really ask that because if it's unforeseen, you wouldn't know about it. But the Wikipedia markets, what do you think is going to happen? Just generally. How do you think they're going to be used?
I am excited to see what kind of weird stuff gets bought up because there's not really so much of a status symbol necessarily with buying more popular or well-known Wikipedia articles. Like, I bet people will buy philosophy because it's kind of a meme that if you click the first link of every Wikipedia article, you'll eventually land at philosophy, which I think is smart and cool, and I have no idea how they did that. So that'll be a meme coin, I think. Not that it doesn't deserve it. But I'm interested to see what kind of subcultures come to Ideamarket first and have an activist bent, have something, weird that they want to meme to the top. I expect that it'll be a lot less predictable than Twitter, which is just like whoever's a big deal now will be a big deal first on Ideamarket before the real, curation stuff kicks in as a general trend.
Fair. So nothing super surprising then, right?
No, I think it's more likely to be super surprising because there's less of a status game that's like obvious in the Wikipedia market. What would I put money on?
Yeah.
Definitely some of the weird CIA stuff and scientists like Ian Stevenson, who was one of the most prominent reincarnation researchers in the world. Like, I think I would put money on a lot of scientists who did really interesting and credible research in areas that you're not really allowed to talk about. So UFO propulsion people, psychic ability people, saints, Wilhelm Reich, weird stuff like I like. But yeah, I'm interested to get this idea out to a variety of subcultures and see what people are gravitating to. Books, I think there's just a ton of variety here.
Yeah, really, it's easy to probably split these off as well into like book markets and philosophy markets and people markets.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what ends up being more interesting, the really general listings like philosophy, or the really specific ones like
Ted Kaczynski.
Like Ted Kaczynski's third wife's dog,
Yeah, okay.
They
don't go that specific. But it'd be cool to see, when you sometimes you click a Wikipedia page and it's like just been filled in. So this person was born here, they wrote this, and that's it. It's like one line. But they warrant a Wikipedia page. I always love them accounts. And I'm like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd love to see that kind of thing right at the top.
Yeah, and that would be fun, especially given that there's a whole subreddit for like weird, obscure Wikipedia discoveries and stuff like that. I think you could start there. I think so. I'm gonna check that weird Wikipedia Reddit subreddit.
I think. Oh, it's just called Wikipedia, I think.
There's also a unusual articles page on Wikipedia, apparently. Yeah, our Wikipedia. Yes. Yeah, I'm mostly expecting the Wikipedia market to be an even more obvious playground for weirdos than the Twitter market, because the Twitter market has to like go through some cycles of status signaling first, whereas the Wikipedia market is just buy weird stuff, get people's attention on weird stuff. I think it's actually more direct.
Just for instance, if you go top of all time with the Wikipedia on Reddit, right? Number 8 is Operation Northwoods.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Precisely.
So like people are, as you say, information's there. It's just not spread equally.
Yeah, 100%. That is precisely it. And everyone knows, including Wikipedia's former co-founder, that Wikipedia has been a battlefield of ideological warfare in the past couple decades, I'd say. And now, it kind of tends to reflect whoever's in power, especially in power in tech. So there's a lot of left-leaning is kind of a too nondescript way to put it, but there's definitely mainstream bent for Wikipedia's current incarnation. I think they reduced the amount and the variety of sources that you're able to cite as a Wikipedia editor. And, the more consolidated the authorities, the less dissent there will be if and when authorities are, colluding in some way or under common influence.
Hey man, you could be a big target.
I know.
Watch your back, man.
All right.
I don't know though. You're not really, because you're saying that we're just giving you a function to find the diamonds in the needle in the haystack, right?
Yeah, that's why I don't usually talk about this super weird stuff on public things. But the ability is there.
Maybe you'll just get shut down. That would prove you right, though. Even though it'd suck, it would be like the biggest. We were right.
Yeah, I'd rather not have this particular conversation right now.
Okay.
Because things, but yeah, it'll be a fun experiment, and I look forward to seeing what my weird brethren list. I've definitely got a bunch of ideas, but it is time to start getting the word out. It's time to start telling people to make a shopping list because it's coming. It's
How
coming,
far
baby.
Can we? Is there dates? Yeah.
I'm aiming for sometime this month. No
Nice.
promises, but I'm definitely I'd be pretty happy if it's sometime this month, and I definitely think we have the technical ability to do that. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I'm be pretty excited about that. I'm definitely gonna start making a shopping list.
Mm-hmm. Right. What is it? So is it the same as Ideamarket? It's just a listing fee, and then put as much as you want in.
Yeah, works exactly the same as the Twitter market. Only every listing is a Wikipedia page, and the gas fees are now down to probably between $5 and $15 to list, and between $2 and $5 to buy. So it's much more reasonable than it has been up until last week. By the way, speaking of which, Bob Face, our CTO, told me that the number of users that we had between launch day in February and basically like October 1st, that was about 200, 250 unique addresses paid the gas fee to interact with Ideamarket. Now, or just having since launched Arbitrum, 8 days ago, it's now, let me make sure I get this right. 350 or something. So that's an increase of like 50% in a week compared to the previous 7 months. And that's heartening. I like that.
Big stuff. So we literally only had 250 people before?
We only had 250 unique addresses interact with.
And that got us up to like 1 million?
Yeah. Yeah.
These guys are playing big.
Some of them are playing big, absolutely. And some of them, yeah, I mean, betting on the success of the platform makes perfect sense, especially at the bottom of the bonding curve.
True, best time to get in is now.
100%. 100%.
Wow. But that's big stuff. 8 days, 200, like in the 50% rise. Is that slowly increasing as well?
It's too early to say with definitude, but I have seen activity literally every day, which is pretty damn cool.
That's cool.
Let me see. So we added to the Twitter market on the listing pages, you can see the Twitter feeds for every user, right? So for the Wikipedia market, it's fun to figure out which data and other things to include underneath that. Like, I guess we could include some of the Wikipedia content we could probably scrape, but what we could also do is, like, on the motivated reasoning page, can we do the Google results maybe, or we could do the Ngram. I'm interested in figuring out what kinds of data that we can put right there so that people can do that kind of technical analysis like right away.
And also what data people want, because I don't know what the difference between, say, an Ngram and a Google like search thing, right? Are they going to be basically the same, or are they going to actually be different?
So the Ngram is the chart with like term usage.
Yeah, but that's all term usage in like culture. Google search is just Google search. Okay.
Right. Google search is just the results when you search Google for the term. Yeah, I wonder how many different platforms we can include. Google Trends. I should ask Arwen this because I don't use Google APIs very much. Is Google Trends the same thing as Google Ngram? I do not think it is, and I'm revealing my ignorance by asking that question.
I would assume Google Trends is literally what's going on like Google search engine. Whereas the Ngram, as I understand it, is that drawing from like texts, books, mentions in culture, blah blah blah.
Yes,
So which one that's a good question. Which one of them would be more important and decisive in making your decision of a bet on the future?
Yeah.
Seems like the Ngram is like the macro, and the trends would be the micro in terms of like the localized recent context scope. So you'd be able to like, so it's like, yeah, it might have a long trajectory on the Ngram, but it's like, but then the Google Trends is like, do I get in right now, or do I wait like a month? You know,
Especially,
for instance, if you got enough people on board, those. It's quite funny to think about, actually. I'd love to see it happen. Those kind of people who, well, not the kind of people, those people who know how to trade oil, and they just go off the cycle every year. They take like 30 grand, put it in at the right time, like month leeway every year, and they just know how to do it, and they know exactly what to look for. People do it on a ton of different stocks, right? They just play the long game, and then they take what they've made, use that for the year, then do it all over again. That with Ideamarket, we go, right, when is the best time to buy Christmas stuff on Ideamarket, right? Or seasonal stuff, right? Because we're just talking about seasonal ideas, and I mean, Google Trends probably shows ones that are literally like, like every year.
That is a good point. That's cool.
It's a cyclic market, right? The 100%. Online market is cyclic, the same as everything else. That's one hell of a job, though. If you just said, I just trade. I don't trade Christmas songs. I trade the Wikipedia page of Christmas songs every year.
Yeah. I like that.
It's so nerdy.
I like that. And then there will be like people out to reveal that the author of Jingle Bells was actually a pedophile or some shit in order to compete, in order to get, some other song promoted. I like the idea of having the Ngram be like the longer time scale and the Google Trends be the shorter, especially, and I think you'll like this, because like if you're looking at an Ngram and something was way up here, well, my camera is reversing thing. All right, okay, if something is like way up here in the 1600s, and then it goes down in modernity, and then it's just starting to go up like this in the last 5 or 10 years. It's a very reject modernity kind of thing. You can see, these have been values for thousands of years that served society well and got the cathedrals built and stuff, and it disappeared because of it disappeared right the same year that postmodernism became a big thing or something like that, and then you can start to see the uptick and anticipate that. I think modernity exiters might have some fun with that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
I was going to say something else too, but I forgot what it was.
Crazy. Have we got any other markets coming?
I'm thinking about a mirror market. We'd actually planned to release one in February when we went live initially, but decided not to. The main reason it would have been good to is probably like bragging rights at this point, because we went live with the Twitter market and the Substack market was a surprise. We did not announce it. So it was kind of sitting there in the background while the Twitter market blew up because people didn't know it was there. I was thinking like a performer, give them an extra treat that they don't know about, like pow. And product launches may not ideally work that way. So having the Substack experience made me go, all right, so, when we do the mirror market, it should be its own thing, its own announcement, prepare people. And some technical changes happened since then, so we have to update it and get ready. But yeah, I'm excited about that because their platform is a pretty ideal instantiation of what the future of blogging and journalism might look like, and newsletters and stuff like that. So it seems like a pretty good marriage, especially given the ability that they have to, you can sell your articles as NFTs. So that when Ideamarket launches an NFT market, it basically becomes, in addition, a market for articles. And then there's a way to codify what an article is. It's saved as an NFT. It's not like it just gets edited or removed, or it gets its URL changed, or gets plagiarized. There's all kinds of shit that can happen to an article that makes it really hard to decide with any finality where it begins or ends. One way to do that might be like the Internet Archive, like the Wayback Machine, but we haven't done that. But yeah, the mirror market and the NFT market, I think, are potentially super huge in that respect as well. Yes, indeed. But I'm really excited to blow out this Wikipedia market idea and see.
You were on about a URL market a while back, though. It's website market, right? That's risky,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. That would be super Wild Westy, and I'm kind of tempted to do it anyway. Like, why not?
But then what? Maybe you don't want to talk about this on air, but like, what about like Facebook.com, right?
I can talk about this stuff. Yeah. Facebook.
What is it you own?
What is it? Who owns? When you buy a thing.
Yeah, if you had a URL market.
Oh, right. If we had a URL market and you bought, Facebook.com, it would probably just be a meme coin, because the point of the market is to curate attention. It's to tell people what to pay attention to. So if you buy Facebook, then other people will buy it for the same speculative reason that you did. But I can't imagine there being much fundamentals to it. A, because nobody feels like Facebook gets too little attention. And B, because nobody feels Facebook gets too little attention. There's like nothing, there's nothing there. I mean, at the Facebook.com level that would compel people to buy after you. If it's Facebook.com/reasons cancer's already been cured or something like that, then people might buy that. But Facebook.com by itself won't.
It's an interesting idea. I love these things where like there has to be a turning point in something. Where like, so for instance, when Ideamarket gets to a certain size, when, not if, when it gets to the point, right, it will eventually get to a certain point, I guess, where it's so big that certain companies, it would probably be beneficial for them to actually put in the amount of money to put themselves at the top of the attention thing, right? Because if it begins to outweigh CNN, BBC as a source of media to the point where it's like everyone's going here first, it would then be worth their amount of money, which at that point would be a lot to like bump themselves right up. But then but then like it's interesting though, because then what is that act then? It's like an admittance. You're paying to say that we've lost, because you've literally got to pay to get yourself at the top of the thing. And that'd be interesting as well. Have next to the market thing, like who, I don't know, because all the accounts are anonymous, obviously, so that wouldn't really work. But it'd be nice to say like who backed this, right? Because then I bet you'd see all the major companies like BBC. Has been backed by the BBC account. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, we can't force people to reveal their identities, but we can allow people to reveal their identities. So you can see that if BBC is number one and Joe Rogan's number two, Joe Rogan will probably have thousands of people who have chosen to say, "Oh yeah, I'm a real person. Here's my Twitter."
I mean, this is one of the huge points about consensus media, right? Is that if you said to people about this function that Ideamarket's giving them, if you said to them, what news do you watch, right? And the average person is still going to be CNN, BBC News, ITV News in the UK, like the main news channels, right? Sky, Fox, etc. Right? But if you said to people, would you, if it wasn't just, because the thing is with these news sites with consensus media, it's just there. It's not like getting a TV license is so normal. Having a TV is so normal. And the channels that are on it, they're just there, right? You're not curating that. It is just what you grew up with. And I think if you sincerely put the message to people, like, right, if there was this, we explained the Ideamarket, we said what it was, and we said, right, would you seriously, sincerely put money behind it in the sense that you're saying it gives a great overview of your news? This is complete rhetoric, but I don't think people would at all. They'd go, I just realized, I just watch it, right?
Yeah.
They don't, there's nothing in it. There's no cost for them in it. There's no value proposition for a minute because it's just there. It's always been there. They just wouldn't put money behind it. So I would, and this is all hit like me just sort of theorizing this. But if you were to see these big accounts move to the top, I would say that once again, there's an interesting mechanism behind Ideamarket, which is like, what is the person's agenda for getting that to the top? And anyone who's trying to get like Fox or Facebook or anything to the top, be like, but why? You know what I mean? Why would you want to do that? They're already there. Like, they're already in the media ecology as like basically nodes that everybody knows. So I think it'd be pretty transparent. You wouldn't even need to know the account. Like £250,000 has been put up behind BBC. Like, all right, well, who's done that? You know what I mean? Like, it's not just some guy who's like, man, I love the BBC. They do such a good job. Because like, I've never met anyone like I've even sort of liberal people who are fairly sympathetic to, I don't know, the mainstream narrative would probably say, no, BBC is just pretty basic. You know, it's just what? It's nothing really. So yeah.
Yeah.
They can't win. They can't win.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly the trick. I mean, they can win, but they have to. The only way to win is to actually be good. The only way to win is to actually earn trust and outcompete the alternatives that are now everywhere.
Mm.
I think that's the key thing that you were talking about. Like, would you put money on this, or is it just there?
How many things in your life would you? This is the interesting thing behind the Wikipedia market for me, because it's going to include beds, right? You know, I mean, literally beds and chairs and wall. Like, you've done wall, it's going to give you a definition of a wall, right? And by that thing of like, deconstructing everything, literally every perceivable, definable idea which is within an object. Like, what is a wall? What is the idea of a wall? You literally begin to see, like, would I? And this is like the Jacob Lund-Fisker argument behind money. You know, like, would I literally put money, which is also time, behind this thing? Like, would I literally do that? And with the BBC, that's easy to understand. But like, like, where do you stand on chairs? Would you put your money behind chairs? How much do you like chairs? You know what I mean? And there's going to be people in Korea and people in certain areas of the world, and it'd be interesting to see like the contextual differences. Who would be like, well, no, we don't use chairs, right? And that argument it instantly becomes interesting. What assumptions there are of cultures when you're like, would you suit me?
Chopsticks versus forks. Ideamarket edition.
I'd have to put a little bit of money behind a chair because I'm fairly fond of them. I've got bad knees, I can't be sitting cross-legged all the time. But I probably wouldn't put that much money on beds because I'm like, well, I think they're overrated.
I heard that in the 18th century, like I've been to Monticello and seen Thomas Jefferson's bed, and it's shorter than modern beds because I don't know.
He was tiny.
I'm not a historian.
He's 3 foot
not
tall.
that he's tiny.
No one knew.
But it was actually standard practice to sleep sitting up. So the bed is like for your legs or like for your hips down.
Like, not like fully sitting up, but
like sitting on your rear with your legs extended or like reclining, yeah, but not like lying flat your whole body.
How far reclining? Like 45 degree? No.
I don't know. I'm not a Thomas Jefferson sleep geometrist.
No, because some people still do that now. If you have acid, they say you get one of those wedges, and it props your whole bed up, and you're like maybe like a 60-degree angle. So I'm just wondering, is he literally sat up like a monk? Because I always wanted to try that. Because I think like if I woke up like that,
I've actually done a lot of that. I have to say.
Yeah.
Just because like for chi management reasons. I think chi sometimes really just does want to go with gravity. I don't know. Complicated things. But yeah, I think it was supposed to reduce likelihood of catching colds or allergies or something like that.
Okay.
Anyway.
I just get too comfortable in bed, you know what I mean? I want to stay
too comfortable? Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll send you a bunch of nails to make bed the ideal comfort level, which I understand is not always, the most. Don't always want to optimize for comfort.
No, you don't. No.
Yeah. I get that. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, my office chairs tend to be just the right amount of annoying to not be too comfortable and soporific. You don't want to fall asleep in your office chair, man. You want to be alert and like it wants to feel like an activity.
Yeah, I was thinking of changing.
But we digress. The point is, we can have fucking thunderdomes about this stuff. Global thunderdomes, where the real important things are settled.
If everything gets back, you see what is genuinely important for a certain culture. I think it's a seriously interesting thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Unfortunately, the accounts are anonymous, but it'd be cool to be like, this person's from here, 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 and here. That one
The
option
accounts are anonymous by default, but
because
as
just the
crypto
option
identity,
of country, just the option of country, and it's like a choice.
yeah. I mean, yeah, we're gonna have the ability for people to disclose about as much of their identity as they want, and some of it will be kind of automatic if they verify their Twitter account. So like if I buy something and then with the same wallet verify that I own my Twitter account, then you know who I am. So there's going to be some levels of that, and we do plan on making it easy to see which listings are owned primarily by anonymous versus primarily by identified people. So you'll be able to tell the difference between George Soros and 10 million bots versus 10 million and one individual humans, for the most part. So yeah, all that stuff is in the future. It's that's for real.
Big things coming.
Yeah, I can't wait to read the Culture War magazine. Fork versus Chopsticks, November edition.
Man, if every week we had eventually we will, but every week we have enough activity that me and you could do a show called like Ideamarket News Show. We could literally.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good goal for 2021.
There's the goal. We actually begin, instead of doing the long short show, we use the idea market to see what's going on.
100%. And we can put up like a little projection thing and like point at it like a weatherman and all kinds of shit. Yeah. So yes, I think that's a good goal for this year. Launch the Wikipedia market and have enough, stuff going on that we can commentate on it in this, kind of a way. That's a good point about chairs and walls. I never thought of that. I'm too literal minded.
Too focused on the ideas, man.
I am.
Well, a wall is an idea. A wall is an idea. Right, because like in terms of, say, for instance, van dwelling culture, which I think is probably still on the rise, at least the abstract idea of that, what that represents, right? Like, for instance, probably something to back, which I would back, is nomadism, like Western nomadism, right? But the implication there is that, well, what's the inverse that I would short if I could? Walls.
Oh yeah, everyone knew special.
What walls represent, which is as soon as you put them down, well, we're here, right? Which I don't think many people really want anymore, because the state fucking owns walls.
That is a good point. Yep. Yep. You'd short walls. I would
short walls, yeah. But yeah, I would back. I think if they said what Wikipedia page you're gonna back, I'd put nomads. If
I were you, I'd do van dwelling as well, because it's it's another instance of the same thing. Van dwelling, tiny homes.
I'm so close, man. We can talk about this in private, but I'm so close to getting the van.
I'm so on board with that. Like, this is actually kind of funny because a few years ago, I received some little tiny bit of inheritance, and I had been wanting to buy an RV or like a van. Like, I've been shopping for vans and stuff on Craigslist, and I went and bought an RV for like $2,500, like a 1986 33-foot like school bus sized RV that just barely worked, right? And it'd been sitting in a lot for like 7 years, but I don't care. This is amazing. And I bought it. I drove it, 45 minutes home, and halfway there, it broke down, and it was like out of gas. And I immediately, had to call someone with a huge truck to bring it to like a mechanic overnight. And it turned out when I went back to retrieve it the next day, it didn't actually run out of gas. Just one of the gas tanks did. It had like a switch. You flip it to the other gas tank, and there was like 20 more gallons of gas in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so this RV, kept having problems in all kinds of ways. It had 3 giant car batteries that I had to replace a bunch of times. And like, I joined AAA and used up all their allowance in like the same week. It was crazy. So
welcome to AAA. Right. Okay. I need you now.
Right. Yes. Like the the recent calls thing on AAA on my phone, it take minutes to scroll through during this particular week in like April 2016. And I ended up finding a lovely mechanic guy who wanted to trade my RV for a van that he had fixed up. And this was like, it was a Dodge something or other, and it was from like 1996. And being a mechanic, it had, beautiful everything worked great. And on the inside, there were like limo lights running around. So it was super cozy and stuff in there. But by this point, I was so poor. So it was an amazing trade, right? It was an amazing trade. We got it done. And I was so poor that I was filling the tank in the van 1 gallon of gas at a time. I would drive down the street to the gas station, hand him 3 crumpled dollar bills and say, yeah, put this on number 4, please, and then go back home. And when I was talking to my now wife online, she was in China at the time because she lived there for a long time. And I wanted to go visit her. I had no money, so I sold the van and I bought a plane ticket and met her in Hong Kong. And so like my van dwelling impulse led to my marriage, and now I live in an apartment the size of a tiny house, but it's very, very pleasant. I love it. So all that is to say, super pro van dwelling, but just 100%. Fucking go for it. Do the thing. I still want to do it. There's just no downside. Except for the downside. Except for the downside.
Yeah, except for all the clear downsides.
Except for
the common ones. I've done so much research into it now. Though I think the common ones are really overblown, and it's probably smaller things you don't realize. Like everyone goes on about, what about a loo? Like van dwellers now, man. The one that I'm looking at, which is a Mercedes Sprinter, people are literally installing like a shower and loo. Like it's. You know what I mean? Like that's not a thing unless you're completely inept and you're like, oh god, that's not a thing anymore. And like people are like, well, where do you park up? And it's like you just drive until literally there's no houses in sight. And even then in the UK, the cops are just like, they might knock and be like, are you right? You know what I mean?
So
it's
wait.
just not. What?
What do you? And I'm not red teaming this at all. I'm curious because I've been trying to solve this problem forever. Yeah. I don't want to red team it. I'm blue team on this. What do you do with water? Like you say, like if you have a loo built in, fine, but don't you need like a giant water tank on top and you have to carry that around and it sloshes and
no,
I don't know. Like what do you do?
Oh, you mean for the shower water?
Yeah. What's the point of having a loo like with you if there's no water in it?
I would say the best thing to do the loo and the shower. I would say aren't connected via plumbing. I'd say the best thing to do with the loo is to have a compost loo. And then what would that be? A couple of weeks, maybe? You'd then find a campsite where it goes into a composter. Yeah?
Okay.
With the loo. With the shower, you get like 100-liter tank of water, which you can access from the side of the van to refill it. And now what you do, this is an amazing contraption. On the floor, so in most vans you have the metal grid, then you put in a bit of padding, then you do the floor. Right? In that floor, you create a trapdoor, comes up. In it is like a folded shower. So it's like a metal sort of square, and then the shower material just folds down. Bring that up, hook it on the roof of the van, and then where you'd installed your sink, it's one of those American-style faucets or taps where you can actually bring it out. And you have a shower addition to that. So the plumbing would literally come from the original 100-liter tank.
And where do you keep the 100-liter tank?
You should keep that under the sink.
You keep that under the. Okay, so in the van under the sink, not like under the floor or on the ceiling or anything like that.
I think if you could, it would be better to somehow try to do it literally on the underside of the van, but it depends on the height of the van.
Yeah. All right, well that does sound like some improvement over last time I thought about this. Yeah, man. Ideamarket Sprinter Van Tour 2022. Let's do this shit.
Dude, if I got one, I would say you'd send me an Ideamarket decal. How about the van?
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. We're gonna deck out all that stuff.
Maybe that's the first thing I'd do. I'd find a way to get to you if I was living in the van.
Let me see. Let me check. I have Discord on mute so that it doesn't, pull me aside. But let me see how many people I've been annoying with this. Let's see. Stuff, things. Yes, good questions. Buying LPs. So Sam Hebda asked, how do you use Ideamarket as your alternative to mainstream media news? I'm seeing at least, I mean, there's a billion answers to this, but two of the most obvious ones are having a feed, like a content feed, more like an RSS than anything else, but it would be combining content from a variety of platforms that is market curated. So you have kind of like a general one where the top ranked creators on each platform and the top ranked ideas and stuff, have a feed. So right now it'd be whatever Elon Musk is saying, whatever the top Substack writer is publishing, just kind of automated market curation of a feed of information. But that's at the global level, which people probably won't want so much on an individual basis. What individuals will probably want is something more like a Reddit style system where they subscribe to the categories that they're interested in and get a feed from the top ranked of those. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing happening. So we're going to do like a subreddit style categorization system where the users can decide what the categories are, not only what categories things can go into, but also what goes into them. So we're going to imitate that and allow people to subscribe to a variety of ones and hopefully combine all those feeds into a customized market curated feed so that you can keep tabs on the things that you want to in this sort of way. Because we do want to create like a new one-stop shop for information, because that's what corporate media used to be. It used to be, you do your work, you watch the news for 1 hour a night, and you're done. You're like an informed citizen. We need a new way to unite the information streams of the universe in this new information ecosystem with the internet. And this is a solid way that I think it could be done. There's a whole ecosystem to build here, so I'm really excited to hear other ideas and try other things and invite people to play with stuff and build it and do experiments. I think that's awesome. This is just one of my favorite ideas on this topic that we've had so far. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a way to bring people into this chat. You have the, oh yeah, I gave you like an invite link. Do we still have that? Yes, add source, invite guests. Invite guests. All right, I'm going to bring some people in from Discord.
Cool.
Probably should have done this before going on a 25-minute rant about van dwelling. But that's my fault.
It's like well easy to get traction on NFTs as well.
Yeah. All right, I'm bringing in Arwin right now.
Hey guys,
hey.
That's amazing. Hey, nice to see you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing super good, thanks. I just sat in my hammock, just miles away. Well, not miles away, listening to you guys. Happy to be able to join the chat.
Yeah, hammocks are perfect for van dwelling as well.
Yeah.
If you'll excuse me for one moment, I have to tie up a quick loose end here. But yeah, please tell me what you're thinking about liquidity pools or any of the other things we've been discussing, because I really liked your ideas and suggestions in the Discord.
Yeah, well, I mean, I find, first of all, the whole thing find it fascinating. I'm happy to come across it because I have considered some of these things for a little bit myself before. But I like coincidentally, because you mentioned the correlation between different assets and stuff, I always find those things interesting, whether they're analytical or chaotic. and it's like there's a book or a website called Spurious Correlations where they find things that are perhaps not related or shouldn't be related, like the amount of like Lucky Charms sold in a year compared to like the success of Shania Twain hits and stuff like that. So I think that it's like when you were talking about what might go in demand and in the future regarding Wikipedia and the curiosities of things, that might be an interesting thing to pursue. Also, with regard to liquidity pairs, is so, for example, if that was the case and Shania Twain did trend with Lucky Charm sales, and if there was some sort of AMM trading system, then in some weird way, if you bought that, if you created that liquidity pool, because maybe if I'm trading from my Shania Twain tokens to, I don't know, like Lucky Charms tokens, I don't know, it's got to go through an AMM. So if you've got part of that, the beginning, I mean, I'm not a super expert. It just seemed a little bit funny to me that might be a possibility in the future.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome. All the tokens are ERC20, so we can just list them on Uniswap and use that.
Yeah. So people will be free to go and do that. That's amazing. And the abstract idea of comparing walls, like you said, to something like it's very beautiful. I think it's a really when I say magical application of technology, and I'm sure it will go absolutely mental. I mean, I think the whole thing's absolute genius. To be honest, it's the Matrix at its best. I mean,
Thank you, man.
But it's brilliant.
No. You're very welcome. I appreciate that so much. We're really excited to see what happens when this experiment gets off the ground in earnest. So I'm super excited about the Wikipedia market and all the weird activity it might reveal.
With regards to the vans, I'm actually living in Mexico now, here in San Cristobal, moving to Tulum. And you know what? I was toying with getting a van for quite the last few weeks, whether to drive over there. And I would be quite happy to spray Ideamarket on the side of my van. And you know what? As use cases, it gave me a really nice idea. My friend here, Sam, is a writer. He writes, he's just published a book on Amazon about traveling in Asia and stuff. And so, for example, here, what's it called? Itchy Feet in Asia, travel tales. Hold on 1 second. And but it's brilliant and it's genius. But the thing is, if you started up, what's it called, the Showtime, and you start Substack and you start documenting yourself, and then you validate yourself and you verify yourself, and you say, my name's Arwin and I've decided I'm going to drive to Tulum in my van, which I'm spraying Ideamarket on, and I'm verifying myself and I'm trusting in myself, and I'm asking you to donate to this platform, then it is a very honest GoFundMe that the community can say, yeah, okay, at the moment, maybe there isn't the volume in for that to be a thing, but we're creating the volume. That's the whole point, is that the people in the system are contributing to the system. So if they want to see a van, somebody can just say, I want to do it. Does anyone want to help me get this van? A chicken and the bread and all that. But it's just conceptual for anybody to do, not for me. It's just my ideas. While I'm sat here on the hammock listening to you, I didn't expect to be in the video chat. So, just
100%, man. I love that. And hammocks go perfect for van dwelling, I think. Why not? That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, sure. There you can hang them out the back of your van. You can get like a little thing you stick in the tow bar. It's like a Y-shaped piece of metal that's extendable. Just hang your hammock there. You're killing it. Yeah, for sure. Anyway, life's good for me, but I'm glad to see you guys doing it. Much respect, to be honest. I look forward to getting involved more and contributing more. But just a few ideas I had about like hashtag and other. I mean, it's obvious to me. It's obvious, but like happy to see it working well, because some of the other approaches that I've seen to this sort of way have been a little bit more cynical. And I thought like, oh well, why are you keeping it closed loop or like that? It's quite obvious it doesn't need to be like that. This seems like a really fair and open source solution that even other people can skin and put sub levels on. There's so much. It's a protocol basically now. So
100%.
It's whatever. I'm down to 5% battery, so I may have to leave. I might go and get sure I'll get charged in. But thanks for having me. Continue to talk, but I just need to go and get some battery, so I better leave the chat.
Sounds good. No, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you. Love your ideas. We'll keep talking.
Yeah, for sure. Much love. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you soon.
Peace.
Bye bye.
He mentioned. You gonna say something?
No.
All right. He mentioned a platform that he, I think, started working on a long time ago, called Hashdac, like
right.
NASDAQ, but hashes. I think that's a brilliant name. I fucking love it. That's like Bitcoin hashtag. That's fantastic. I love that. So he's been thinking along these lines for a long time.
How could we change? What is it? The fortune? What's the FTSE? FTSE. We needed one for that. And the Fortune 500. That's the big one as well, right?
Yeah. Fortune 500, Standard & Poor's, yeah.
So the 500 biggest companies, right?
Yeah.
It's just an index. I don't know.
Yeah. It's all right. We can play with all that stuff.
I'm the
We can
kind
play
of guy
with
who
all
wants
that
to live in
stuff.
a van. But don't ask me.
Decent point.
Yeah. I don't know though. I trust those guys more.
The van
You know,
guys?
yeah, you know what I mean. That's why I always love. Yeah, have you seen the film? I think he's almost like a mascot of what we're on about, and he's listed actually. But the Big Short, right? And the guy who's like, seeds are gonna be the next currency. That's isn't Michael
He
Burry?
is.
Michael Burry is Christian Bale, right?
Yes.
He's listening to Mastodon. He's cool.
Yeah.
I might have to rewatch that later. We should watch it and
100%.
chat about it. That'd be a good
Movie night.
watch.
100%. 100%.
So there's Michael Burry, and the other one is
Ben Rickard is the guy with
Ben
the
Rickard.
seeds.
Yeah, Brad Pitt. Yeah, Ben Rickard. And he's just made his money and just opted out of the whole system. I like people like that.
Yeah, I'll bet.
That's why. Well, I don't know. There's a limit to someone's greed. I think like I wouldn't make a good. If I was, obviously I'm not, but like if I was ever a professional football player, I'd be known as that guy who just was there one season. I'd be like, yeah, I'm making how much they make, like £100,000 a day. I'd be like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Like I don't need any more. I'm just gonna go.
You'd be the one guy who became a pro athlete for the money and then quit.
You know what I mean? Though? Like three days in, I'm like, right, that's enough for the cottage. Now I just need to work another like 3 weeks, and I can just retire.
That is funny.
Yeah,
that's some high leverage. Yeah.
I guess the point is they're doing it for the sport. I wonder if there's actually anyone out there who was like, I'm fairly good at this, but I'm going to really go for it, so I can make good money. And
well, here's the thing.
They hate the sport. They're just not interested in it.
I doubt I'd even hate it, but in baseball, American baseball, a Major League Baseball is often an aspiration of poor young boys from Central America and South America. The Dominican Republic, especially, is famous for being like a funnel into the major leagues. And there's documentaries about how these young boys are like, I'm gonna, go into the major leagues and make millions of dollars and send it home to my family. And some of them do. Like, there's a whole baseball economy based on getting these poor kids major league contracts in America so that they can take care of their families back home. So, I mean, in that respect, yes. And there's, it's kind of a dystopic thing. That's a little bit Hunger Gamesy, come to think of it. But yeah.
Squid Gamesy.
Well, I was gonna say that, but since I haven't seen it, I don't know.
I've watched the first episode and then I watched half of the second, and I was like, what? I had to.
It's just so fun. You were like, you are just the pope of the anti-Squid Game movement last time we talked, and you're like, so I've watched the first episode.
Well, no, but I watched the first episode and I watched the second and a half and I stopped because it's literally like, well, it doesn't matter where this goes. It's generic battle royale stuff.
Yeah.
I've tweeted my take. I'm done. Did you see my take?
Sometimes it's like, no, I'm gonna look it up right now.
My take. I'll read it to you, right? The fact media such as Squid Games, Hunger Games, or any of these other like generic battle royale things are so popular is proof of what Deleuze and Guattari said about us all having an inner fascist, right? No one cares about the social commentary of like the social commentary of capitalism. Everyone just wants to see down and outs get blown up.
You're right.
That
is a good
like
point.
the whole thing of like, yeah, but like the capitalist commentary is amazing. We've done it. We get it. It's been done 1 billion times. No one cares.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
The pretense is blown. It's now
you know
just
what I mean?
over.
Just don't even bother with that stuff. Just show me poor people who are right at the bottom. Just show me them getting blown up better and better. Like, it's their way of justifying, like, how can we slaughter in cool ways hundreds of people on the screen and make everyone go like, oh, dude, that's so sadistic. But it's not bad. Like, for us to do that. But it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine for us to film and create this because we're showing how bad capitalism is. All right, whatever.
Yeah, I think your point is dead on. The time for sending commentary messages is likely behind us.
It's gone.
Yeah. Do you think zombie movies work the same way? Like, it gives people an outlet for just killing people without a moral consequence?
Well, I think that even though I think you could always apply the zombie as the symbol of the consumer, I think that's dropped off, and it's almost inverse that maybe we do actually sympathise with the zombies more now, that we want to seek because we want to see how cool and mad they can get. And it's no longer like, it was like George A. Romero's critique of The Walking Dead, because he said, it's just turned into a soap opera. And he sort of said that a lot of zombie things were no longer about the zombies, which seems to be that way. Like, you can't just do a sincere survival zombie film, right, against people struggling with getting drawn into consumptive habits and becoming the consumer. Right, that's why I love the ending of the original Dawn of the Dead, because it's so bleak when you look at it like that. There's only 2 ways out of the consumerist life. Well, there's 3 ways out of the consumerist lifestyle, according to George A. Romero, right? 1, eventually you just get caught out, right? Even though they put up this like fake wall of they live in a fake wall in the mall, right? So they're like chameleons, and eventually they get found out by the consumers and they get eaten, and then they become consumers themselves, right? They end up watching the Marvel movies as well. 2, you go so far out into the country that no one can ever find you, but you're so alienated and ostracized. It's like, well, you just don't see anyone. You're just gone. You're the hermit. And 3 is kill yourself. That's what one of the guys does. They're the options. I've gone off on a big tangent, and we need to slow down because I'll go into zombie movies hard.
No, I'm interested in this, but I have a hard stop in 10 minutes. So
right.
I'm gonna say one thing that might be provocative in this regard, and we'll see how it goes. You mentioned the original Dawn of the Dead, which I have not seen, being very uncultured. But I've seen the new Dawn of the Dead, the one from 2004, whatever, the one with Bing Rames.
Yeah, I do like the new one.
And just as you were speaking, it occurred to me that in that movie they take refuge in a mall. Yeah. In a mall, right? Like, there's more symbolism in that than I had realized.
Yeah, it's all about consumption, which is why 28 days later, even though he said, "Oh, they're not zombies," which is interesting because they sort of are, and he said, "Oh, they're like rage-filled." And I love the idea that in 1978, the consumers are so passive, they don't really care, really, that even in the 1978 one, they're like brushing shoulders with them when they're running past, and they like fall over clumsily, and they're these fat consumers. And I love the idea that by like 2007, when 28 Days Later came out, if you've seen that, these zombies are like fucking sprinting. They're like smashing into things to get you to try consume, right? They're like, no, you're going to watch Marvel films. I'm going to go on about it. I'm going to sprint at you. And like, you know what I mean? And then that's the point of World War Z, is like they can't accelerate zombies anymore. Because the point in World War Z was zombies were literally like killing themselves.
Yeah. And
like smashing themselves against walls and piling up to be like, no, dude, you will watch Marvel films. you can't get any more like than that.
You will watch Marvel.
You're like, you will. I'm going to sprint at you.
Yeah.
But that's how consumer society feels now, though. You used to be able to be like a 70s zombie. You used to be able to like bumble past it and you're like, oh, whatever. But man, it's just sped up where it's like rammed down.
Yeah. It seems like zombies are going through the same evolutionary process as humans, in the sense that the next step is to develop tools and societies and like agriculture, and like zombies are currently nomadic. They kind of wander. They don't really have an incredibly sophisticated plan. What if zombies start using, higher order thinking to be more efficient in their, what if they start setting traps and stuff?
Yeah, but their teleology
oh,
is still...
there's a box of McDonald's over here, and oh, you're gonna, stuff like that.
But their teleology would still be just to make people consume. So they'd have to be super smart.
Exactly. But I mean, it's not that hard to make people consume. But
yeah.
I don't know. We have to do a deep dive on zombie movies someday, man.
Yeah.
It's cool.
They started using tools in Land of the Dead.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Do your research.
No. It's not high enough on my my
Should
priority
be.
list, but I'll let you do the research.
Is
It's
it
pretty
apparently, do
interesting.
you know apparently it's a British thing? British people are just really into zombies. I didn't know
I
this, but
didn't know
apparently
that.
apparently it's the thing.
I didn't know that either. That's interesting.
Yeah. But there's a couple of zombie films where they use tools, just so you know.
All right, noted.
Thanks, man.
Um,
Anything we need to add in before we finish up?
I don't think so. I think this has been a usually eclectic combination of productive and unproductive chat.
Yeah.
And we'll end it here and see you again probably at a super random moment when we decide to do another one of these. If not, Friday mornings 9 a.m. Pacific, which is sometimes we do things then and sometimes we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. It'll be on YouTube if it's not already. And join the Discord and tell us all the things we were wrong about. Good night, everybody, even though it's 12:30 in the afternoon for me.
Ladies, guys.
But not for you. All right, peace out.